Some K-drama roles are so dark and emotionally draining that they don't just stay on screen, they actually spill over into real life, haunting the actors who brought them to life. These kinds of characters can turn an actor's world upside down, leaving lasting scars, sleepless nights, and sometimes even changing the course of their careers. It's clear that some roles don't just test an actor's abilities, they also test their emotional resilience, and a great example of that is what happened to Jung Hae-in when filming DP. On paper, the drama is about military police tracking down deserters, but what makes it so gut-wrenching is that it doesn't shy away from showing the brutal reality of Korea's mandatory military service. Hae-in's character, Ahn Jun-ho, is forced to witness cruelty, humiliation, and disturbing realities that reflect far too closely the things that allegedly happen behind closed doors in the military. For viewers, it was already hard to watch, but for the man actually living inside the character for over a year, the line between role and reality became a little blurry. Hae-in confessed that at the time of filming, he was already in a fragile mental state. He admitted in an interview that he was struggling with family issues, battling low self-esteem, and constantly second-guessing himself as an actor because some of his past projects hadn't received the results he had hoped for. In his own words, he was at one of the lowest points of his confidence when DP came along. And ironically, while the project didn't immediately feel like a solution, he described it as a turning point that reminded him what he was capable of. Talking about the show, he said, "With DP, I showed the acting that I've never shown before. So I think of it as a turning point in my filmography. I feel very grateful because this project has helped me resolve the thirst I had as an actor." Hae-in explained he spent about a year and a half working on the drama, which is the same amount of time the mandatory military service period lasts. He shared that the drama started to hold a special place in his heart, but this unfortunately came at a big cost. Although DP managed to help make Hae-in feel more confident in his acting abilities, giving his all for this role was equally traumatizing. Unfortunately, the drama wasn't just a project he could walk away from once the cameras stopped rolling. It was something that followed him into his daily life and turned into a source of real psychological strain. The full extent of just how much the series affected him only came to light much later when he appeared as a guest on Donor Hyung, a YouTube series hosted by comedian Shin Dong-wook. Hae-in's appearance was meant to promote one of his newer movies, but inevitably, the conversation drifted back to DP, as this project had not only redefined his career, but also left him pretty scarred. Dong-wook, known for his blunt sense of humor, casually mentioned that watching the series made him wonder how much Hae-in was being paid to endure something so grueling, before pointing out that he had seen Hae-in describe DP as challenging in other interviews. That small remark opened the door for Hae-in to finally admit the truth. The show wasn't just difficult to film, it was actually kind of soul-crushing. He explained that the seriousness of the story weighed on him constantly, that the themes were not just dark but outright disturbing, and that even physically he had been forced to relive his own enlistment by shaving his head again and fully immersing himself in the role. Hae-in confessed that filming DP left him with recurring nightmares, most of them centered around the idea of having to enlist all over again. The anxiety became so severe and overwhelming that it started haunting him on set. At one point during filming, he even began responding with his real name instead of his characters, a sign of just how much his own identity started blending with Ahn Jun-ho's. He explained that everything felt so real to the point it was absolutely frightening. For the audience, DP might have been a much-needed drama, but for Hae-in, it was an experience that constantly triggered old memories, made him second-guess his own stability, and left him exhausted in ways viewers never saw. The psychological toll of the drama was undeniable, but what made things even harder was that the show forced him to reflect on his past actions. Playing the role of Ahn Jun-ho unlocked his own memories of serving in the army, bringing back attitudes, habits, and behaviors that he thought he had left behind. He admitted that some of these resurfacing traits made him uncomfortable because they reminded him of the bad reality and actions of his past life in uniform. There were moments on set where the atmosphere grew so heavy that even his co-stars felt unsettled because the fiction they were recreating was far too close to their own experiences. Even though filming the show wasn't an easy experience for Hae-in, he never downplayed how important DP truly is. He admitted that while the Korean military has changed and continues to improve, there are still far too many reports of tragedies that echo what viewers saw in the show. That's why for him, DP is more than just a drama. It's a reminder of what young Koreans have to endure, and in a way, a plea for measures to ensure they can serve safely. What makes DP so haunting is that it exposes a sinister reality that countless Koreans already know far too well. Everyone is probably already familiar with the fact that in South Korea, healthy men between the ages of 18 and 35 are required to serve in the military, giving up their normal lives for anywhere between 18 and 21 months to completely immerse themselves in the harsh structure of military life. For those who are not in perfect health, there are alternative paths such as civil service in public institutions, and in rare cases, complete exemptions are granted, but for the vast majority, enlistment is unavoidable and deeply ingrained in Korean society as both a duty and a rite of passage. However, for most men, the reality of this service is anything but glorious. As DP demonstrated quite painfully, life in uniform can be cruel, tiring, and at times even dehumanizing. The series follows a team of military police tasked with hunting down deserters, and while on the surface, that sounds like a story about discipline and order, the deeper truth is far darker. The drama reveals how young men, often just barely out of high school, are forced into environments where harassment and violence are unavoidable, and how sometimes the weight of that system is so unbearable that desertion becomes their only escape. Director Han Joon-hee explained that his goal was ever to create just another military drama, but to humanize those caught up in this cycle, portraying deserters not only as criminals but as sons, brothers, and lovers whose suffering pushed them beyond their limits. There's no denying that the show portrays some very heavy and disturbing moments, but unfortunately, these scenes really aren't too far from reality. In 2020 alone, there were nearly 1,000 officially reported cases of harassment in the Korean military, and that's only a fraction of it, since countless more cases remain underreported out of fear or shame. This is why the release of DP resonated so strongly with many, as men in their 20s, 30s, and even 40s who had already completed their service spoke out about the show, saying that it felt like reliving their worst days. Many described it as PTSD triggering, admitting that they couldn't even bring themselves to finish certain episodes because the scenes mirrored exactly what they had endured years before. One recalled watching the infamous scene of a soldier having combat boots thrown at him, only to remember going through the same harassment himself. Another former soldier also shared his feelings, saying, "The show reminded me of all the corrupt, unfair, and plain wrong things that I too personally experienced while serving my military duty back in the day." Others explained that they knew all too well what it's like to be picked at by a superior for no reason, showing that the harassment is still very much present to this day. What makes the show even more chilling is how DP depicts the system's reaction when these cases do come to light. Rather than being met with compassion or reform, they are often brushed aside by indifferent superiors who treat the cruelty as part of tradition, dismissing the victims as too weak or soft to handle discipline. In worst cases, scandals are deliberately covered up by career officers desperate to protect their reputations and secure their next promotion, making it clear that the institution itself often works harder to bury the truth than to protect the young men under its care. The fact that so many soldiers could directly relate to what unfolded on screen shows just how awful the military can be, and that's exactly why DP struck a nerve with many. Even the Ministry of Defense was forced to address the drama's popularity, claiming that conditions have improved and that treatment is no longer as harsh as depicted, but the testimonies from former soldiers tell a different story. Director Han Joon-hee pointed out that the endless reports of incidents in the Korean press serve as proof that what happens in DP is not just fiction, but a reflection of ongoing problems. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to not miss the next one. Just like Jung Hae-in faced challenges from DP, Heo Sung-tae's life took a dark turn after Squid Game, showing how even huge hits can leave lasting scars.
While Squid Game might have been the reason for his rise to stardom, Heo Sung-tae has suffered greatly because of it. From health issues to career trouble, Squid Game turned out to be a bigger problem than Sung-tae had originally expected. So how did being on Squid Game manage to ruin Heo Sung-tae's life? Anxiety-inducing role. Who knew that being part of unarguably the biggest show of 2021 would have so many downsides for the actors involved? Squid Game is far from Heo Sung-tae's first acting project, but he didn't even plan on becoming an actor at first. He got a degree in Russian language and culture from the Pusan National University and started working with the LG Electronics Russian business marketing team. He then worked for Daewoo Shipping and Marine Co. and was known as the king of TV sales in Korea. So how did the king of sales end up acting in one of the biggest shows on Netflix? Believe it or not, it was all an accident. He was watching TV while he was drinking and happened to stumble upon an ad for an acting survival reality show by SBS called Miracle Audition. He was so drunk that he applied for the show and surprisingly came in 5th place. Well, not surprisingly, because we all know how talented he is, but to someone with no prior experience in acting, it must have come as a shock. This served as a boost for him to pursue acting seriously. He said, "I became an actor because the judges complimented me. If even one judge said I wasn't good, then I wouldn't have become an actor." He then started learning how to act from imitating the actors he saw on comedy shows. Sung-tae eventually started landing small roles, moving on to bigger ones, before he landed the biggest project of his career, which was Squid Game. Even though he had been playing villains for most of his career, he still managed to bring something fresh to the screen with his portrayal of Dong-wook, and he really enjoyed playing the role too. He said, "I was attracted to this character because he wasn't infinitely strong, and I tried to bring out a variety of emotions related to the most basic of human desires." Sung-tae said that Doksu is a role that he will cherish forever. He stated, "He was the best villain that I could have played. I don't know if I will ever get the chance to play such a global villain again, but he is very precious to me. The audiences saw his dedication to the role too, and the industry finally recognized his talent because this king started getting cast in more and more roles after Squid Game aired." Unfortunately, his Squid Game fame didn't come with no consequences, especially to his health. On May 2nd, Sung-tae's newest drama, Bloody Heart, had its production presentation, which was held online. But when he was asked about his chemistry with actress Choi Min-sik, who plays his daughter on screen, surprisingly, Sung-tae took the opportunity to apologize to her. He started by saying, "After Squid Game, I actually had some sort of social anxiety disorder. Due to that, my shooting with Choi Min-sik got canceled once. It was our first scene together." He said that he felt terribly apologetic towards Choi Min-sik for messing up the filming. He apologized and said, "I just couldn't pull it off well then. I felt terrible about that. I felt so sorry to Choi Min-sik." Thankfully, he was able to overcome his troubles and get back on his feet. Sung-tae shared, "It was one of the most difficult hardships that I had ever experienced. I had to go through it in order to continue with my life though." He also said that he had discussed his problems with the director, and their discussions really helped him get through his hardships. He ended his statement with, "I spoke with the director, and she gave me detailed and heartfelt advice. Her advice truly helped me a lot. After that day, I was able to enjoy my work." It would be hard to imagine that he found it hard to get back to acting after Squid Game, but I'm so glad that he was able to overcome it. Health issues. There were other problems that came with his fame post Squid Game. On top of his anxiety, Sung-tae was also left with a few health issues that he's still dealing with to this day. Because of his role of Deksu, Sung-tae had to go through some drastic weight transformation that wouldn't be healthy for anyone. During an online interview, he shared his journey of preparing for the role in Squid Game. Turns out that during quarantine, he ended up losing 73 kilograms. Yeah, that's a lot, but that isn't the end of his weight transformation. Once he tried for the role of Deksu, the production team thought that he was too skinny for the role. Sung-tae shared, "Squid Games' production team contacted me and asked to meet up with me. I met director Hwang Dong-hyuk and he told me, 'Why did you lose so much weight?' He shared with me that Doksu's physique is an important part of his character and that my shoulders were too small. So not only did he have to gain his lost weight once again, but he needed to do it quickly before the shooting for the show started." He said, "So because of that, I gained about 15 to 17 kilograms in a span of a month and a half. That's the most weight I've gained in such a short amount of time." While his dedication to the role is more than admirable, it didn't turn out the best for him. The drastic weight loss and then gain in such a short amount of time caused a lot of health complications. Sung-tae revealed, "Because I gained weight in such a short amount of time, my health got noticeably worse. My calf muscles disappeared and my knees started to hurt. My body's health overall just became horrible." This was also a learning experience for him, as he said that he'll think twice about the roles he'll accept from now on. He'll still remain dedicated to the act, just not to the point that it does him harm. Sung-tae said, "I have no problem losing the weight, but I think next time I'm offered a role that requires me to gain weight, I will have to give it some thought. I think it's 3 times more difficult to gain weight." Even though the viewers are more than thankful for everything he did to bring the perfect Doksu to our screens, this story was heartbreaking and it made the viewers think about all the unspoken struggles he must have gone through to finish filming the show. Wishing him a speedy recovery. Face your fears. It seems like the role of Doksu came with with more than Sung-tae bargained for. Squid Game is definitely not a show for the faint-hearted, but if viewers were disturbed, I can't even imagine what the actors had to go through while filming some of the dramatic scenes. Sung-tae gave us an idea when he revealed which of the scenes was the hardest to film. It ended up triggering his fear so hard that it messed him up to this day. So which scene was this? None other than the game of glass stepping stone. To win this game, the players must guess which glass panel they should step on to get to the other side of the bridge. If they step on the fragile glass, they will end up falling from a terrifying height. This is also the scene where Sung-tae's character ends up falling and losing the game. The height of the bridge was only 1.5 meters, even though the CGI in the show made the bridge look horrifyingly taller than it actually was. 1.5 meters was more than enough to trigger Sung-tae's fear of heights though, and the experience was less than pleasant. But since Deok-soo is supposed to be this evil character that isn't scared of anything, Sung-tae had to put all of his acting skills to work, but admits that he was terrified to bits. Of course, you can't notice that at all because he's just that excellent of an actor. But thinking of all the things he had to go through during filming, I wouldn't be surprised if he never stepped foot in a filming set again. Running gag. The glass stepping stone scene wasn't the only scene that Sung-tae found hard to film. With more and more players getting eliminated in the Squid Game, the games also started getting harder to survive. One of these games that the contestants had to play to stay alive was tug of war, where two groups of players tugged on a rope and the loser would fall from a horrifying height. The scene had to be filmed with the actors tugging on the rope while a machine was tugging on the other side. The director, Hwang Dong-hyuk, explained that the scene was difficult to film for the entirety of the cast and really tired everyone out. He revealed, "They were all worn out. I remember Lee Jung-jae saying out of all the action films he shot, this is the most difficult scene he's ever done." Lee Jung-jae, who has shot countless scenes that were much more extreme, found the tug-of-war game hard to film. You can't blame the cast for needing a break after filming Wrapped. Sung-tae actually shared that he ended up throwing up because of the scene. In an interview for The Swoon, he said, "I really gave it my all. I threw up so many times. Poor Sung-tae. I know that this is his job, but to get violently ill because of a single scene must have really messed him up." It didn't help that every game got much more difficult to film for the directors and the cast. At this point, I think he begged the director to write him off the show just so he could move on to less painful projects for him to film. He really should put his mental and physical health above everything else. Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to support Sung-tae's latest project, Bloody Heart.
And it's not just male actors. Shin Ye-eun experienced her own struggles on The Glory, proving that fame and intense roles often come at a personal cost. Sometimes a role completely traumatizes you. At least that was the case for Shin Ye-eun, who no longer could close an eye at night after starring in the 2023 hit drama The Glory. This show, starring Song Hye-kyo as the main lead, became a major success not only in South Korea but all over the globe. In the show, Ye-eun played the younger counterpart of the main antagonist, Park Yeon-jin. As many already know, she wasn't exactly a popular character, as she did many awful things to Dong-wook, the protagonist. During their school years, Yeon-jin made sure to make her life a living hell, tormenting her with every opportunity she got. Not only did Yeon-jin verbally harass Dong-wook, but she also physically harmed her, even going as far as burning her body with a curling iron. This form of torture almost cost Dong-wook's life, as she was planning to jump off a building due to the trauma she endured. Once they grew older, she decided to take revenge, but the actions of the younger Yeon-jin continued to linger in the audience's minds. Through The Glory, Ye-eun reached the pinnacle of her acting career. Before her role as Yeon-jin, she was heavily questioning the quality of her acting skills. She hadn't starred in anything as big as The Glory before, so she couldn't prove to herself or the world that she was actually a decent actress. In fact, due to her role in More Than Friends, she started to become really insecure about her own abilities. This had everything to do with the fact that this drama received very poor ratings. During an episode of Face ID, Ye-eun was reading comments about the drama and came across stuff like, "The drama is so fun, but I'm upset that the ratings aren't good," and "It's a fun drama, but the ratings dropped." She started to get really worried about the bad ratings and replied to these comments by saying, "What should I do with our drama? I really can't sleep. I think I'm going crazy. I can't do this. If I sleep and don't think about it, dreams are connected to reality." In the end, she blamed herself for the bad reception of the show. The drama ended up garnering ratings of around 1%, which is considered incredibly low by South Korean standards. Consider considering that she was playing the lead role, she assumed the public didn't tune into the drama due to her bad performance. She reminded herself of the fact that her previous work, Welcome, also had pretty weak ratings, only increasing the pressure she put on herself. There came a point where she couldn't take it anymore, so she broke down in front of her friend and fellow actress Moon Ga-young. Ye-eun opened up about the hardships she faced while figuring out the best way to act and said, "From a certain point on, I only thought about how to do this line better. On the other hand, the more I worry, the more I think I really want to do well." Feeling a great responsibility for the success or failure of the drama she stars in, Ye-eun decided to take on the strategy of practicing acting until late in the morning, almost daily. Although it physically wore her out, Ye-eun's new technique worked because her performance in The Glory left a mark on everyone watching, including critics. Netizens, as well as important industry officials, applauded her for her impressive acting skills, but this came at a very heavy cost. The role had a huge negative impact on her personal life, as it practically left her traumatized. The scenes Ye-eun had to film were anything but easy and caused a mental strain on her as well as everyone else involved. During an episode of The Omniscient Point of View, she revealed just how hard these disturbing scenes were to film. She was a guest on the show alongside her co-stars for The Secret Romantic Guest House, who asked her which drama was harder to film. Without thinking twice, Ye-eun revealed it was definitely The Glory because the scenes were so emotionally demanding, they scarred her for life. Many of the scenes she had to film involved her hurting other people, which is why she started doubting herself and her reality. There was one particular moment on set that shook her to her core, the scene in which she has to hurt Dong-wook by burning her with a curling iron. Ye-eun confessed that this moment, despite being fictional, took such a toll on her that she had no choice but to break character. Sharing what was going through her mind at the time, she said, "It's acting. And honestly, we all film knowing that we're only acting. But in that moment, like, you just think, what am I doing?" Although the curling iron wasn't plugged in and no one was in actual pain, seeing her co-star pretend to be hurt by her actions made her stop right in her tracks. Ye-eun didn't only feel troubled while filming these scenes, because once she successfully shot them, they kept haunting her. She confessed that she ended up having nightmares after filming the hot iron scene, to the point she could no longer fall asleep without wearing earplugs. It seems like Yeonjin's cruelness had such a strong grip on the audience, to the point they could no longer separate fiction from reality. Netizens started seeing Yeonjin and Ye-eun because they just couldn't get past how evil her character was. Due to this, Ye-eun lost a lot of followers across her social media platforms. Her agency was truly convinced that her part in The Glory would propel her to a new level of fame, and while it didn't gain her the followers they anticipated it would. Ye-eun elaborated on this during an episode of the SBS talk show, My Little Old Boy. She sat down with the hosts and explained how her role caused people to avoid her, saying, "They said a lot of people will like me, so I was a little excited about that, but many people said that they don't want to see me smile and that they don't want to see my face." She received endless hate comments, and they really took a toll on her well-being. Heartbroken, she confessed to the host that it wasn't just the negative comments, as people started unfollowing her too. The host tried to lighten up the mood by telling her that's the price you pay to be famous. Not only did netizens link Ye-eun to Yeonjin constantly, but there also came a point where the public was convinced that Ye-eun was actually a school violence perpetrator herself. In a YouTube video, she revealed that one time, while she was on set without the rest of the crew, a citizen was convinced she was actually harassing a classmate. Explaining the situation, Ye-eun said, "It was a prop shooting day, so there was no shooting team, and it was just me, Jisoo, and the assistant director. She was wearing makeup, and I was at the moment when I had to shoot for a mistreatment scene." It turns out that right when the cameras started rolling, a citizen passed by and mistook her for an actual school violence perpetrator. Ye-eun revealed that this really stuck with her, as she named it one of the most memorable moments she had on the filming site. Although The Glory really damaged Ye-eun's mental health, she's still very grateful she got the opportunity. Explaining her feelings towards all the praise she received, she said, "More people complimented and encouraged me than I thought, so I'm encouraged by this so much. I feel like I have the confidence to challenge various roles in the future, so now I want to expand my career as much as possible. Thank you." In February of this year, it was revealed revealed that she might star in a new historical drama alongside Ra-woon, which will probably be less emotionally draining. While Ye-eun struggled with her role in The Glory, Lim Ji-yeon, who played the older version of Yeon-jin, had a totally different experience with the drama. In an interview with the Korea Times, she confessed that she actually wanted the world to hate her, so any hate directed at her wouldn't have surprised her. In fact, it would have probably felt satisfying for her. Explaining this thought process, she said, "When I take on a role for a project, I try to make viewers love and relate to my character, but I've never had to develop a character to be hated. And there was a catharsis that came from it." She explained that she's always wanted to play an antagonist, which is why she was so determined to be as evil as possible. She initially thought she'd get to play a villain in her 40s, since she'd be more experienced then, but when she got the opportunity to play Yeon-jin, she just couldn't resist. Just like Ye-eun, she did a lot of preparation to nail her acting for this drama. Instead of mimicking others or trying to parallel Ye-eun's performance, Ji-yeon crafted her version of Yeon-jin through a unique blend of her own personal gestures, tone, and style. She believed this approach would breathe fresh life into the character, setting her apart from previous portrayals. Although many hated her character, Ji-yeon never received the amount of hate Ye-eun got for playing the character. This probably has something to do with the fact that Ye-eun had to film most of the graphic scenes, so the public mostly associated her face with all that cruelty. Shin Ye-eun's story is far from unique. Many Korean actors have opened up about being emotionally and mentally affected by their demanding roles. Sometimes actors have to play disturbing roles that leave long-lasting effects on them, and some of these actors suffer to this day. One of the most famous cases is that of Kwak Jin-young, an actress that was popular in the 90s. She rose to prominence after her appearance in the 1992 drama Sons and Daughters, where she played the role of Lee Jong-mal. The series was a success and launched her career, but the character she played haunted her for many years, and the public couldn't help but associate her with Jong-mal's identity and portrayal. Jin-young tried everything to step away from the stereotype that her character in Sons and Daughters created for her, but nothing worked. She starred in other dramas over the following years and had quite a bit of success with a few important roles, but in the end she decided to resort to plastic surgery to change her appearance. Unfortunately, the procedure went wrong and she had to overcome years of hardships. She even suffered from a sleep disorder as she couldn't close her eyes properly because of the surgery. Jin-young then became mostly inactive, only appearing in some minor roles and often being absent from the public eye for years. After revealing the details about her botched surgeries, she developed a phobia of appearing on TV. Jin-young later completely left the world of K-dramas and set up a kimchi business, becoming successful in her new career. However, she wasn't entirely happy with the way things turned out, and in 2020, she attempted to take her own life to escape the trauma. Luckily, she recovered after receiving treatment in a hospital. Another actor that was traumatized by a role he played is Choi Min-sik. Min-sik is one of the most successful Korean actors of all time, and over his long career he's often portrayed unnerving characters and starred in several horror movies. However, his role in the 2010 action thriller movie I Saw the Devil was something else entirely. In this movie, he played the part of Jang Kyung-chul, a bus driver who takes the lives of several people in brutal ways and commits many other heinous acts. The movie was even restricted in Korea for its disturbing content, and the director was forced to re-edit the film for its theatrical release. If just watching the movie was so unsettling, imagine acting in it. In fact, Min-sik revealed that he often felt nauseous while filming the sickening scenes, despite knowing that it was all fake. He even confessed that he had to throw up after a particularly disturbing scene because he simply couldn't hold it in any longer. The actor also revealed that while filming the movie, he immersed himself completely in the role, to the point that his personality started to change as he got more and more into the character. Min-sik started to have more and more violent thoughts towards other people, and the experience freaked him out. Because of these increasingly unsettling thoughts, he had to seek psychiatric help. Only after months of therapy, the actor was able to return to his normal life, but he admitted that he would never play another similar role again because it ruined his life at the time. An unsettling role was surely the one played by actor Lee Jung-ok in the drama Strangers from Hell in 2019. In this psychological thriller, Jung-ok is the predator Hong Nam-bak, one of the many abnormal residents of a cheap dormitory. As the character is addicted to indecent material, the actor often often had to put on creepy facial expressions. In an interview after the series finale, he revealed that this was not an easy role and that it had actually changed the way his face looked. He added that even while he wasn't filming, he couldn't help but think about the character and how to portray such a sick and twisted individual. The stress he felt while playing this character lasted for a long time, impacting the mental health of the actor. Jung Hae-in confessed that he became trapped in the trauma for weeks, even after the end of the series, and he struggled to return to a normal life. Kim Jae-wook is another actor that suffered from several issues related to mental and physical health after playing a very disturbing role. After rising to prominence with various appearances in dramas and movies, he finally got his big break in the 2017 series Voice. In this thriller drama, he played the role of Mo Tae-gu, a villainous psychopath and the main antagonist of the first season of the series. The drama was a big success and his performance was highly acclaimed by critics and fans, but the role actually took a huge toll on Jae-wook. In Voice, he's a cold-blooded villain who doesn't flinch even while committing the most horrifying acts, and the actor had to perform in many unsettling scenes. In an interview with the Korea Times, Jae-wook revealed the aftermath of acting in a particularly wicked scene. He said, "My body showed a strong reaction. My hands shook and the heart beat faster, and even after the director said, 'Cut,' my body continued to tremble." He also said that by the time the series ended, he had lost a significant amount of weight and couldn't even look in the mirror. He luckily recovered and went back to acting, but the trauma was so severe that Jae-wook confessed that he didn't want to play another villain for a while. Something similar happened to Lee Kyu-song. He starred in the 2019 drama When the Camellia Blooms, where he played the part of the evil and mysterious Park Hung-sik. The series became one of the highest rated shows of the year in Korea and was the actor's first big role, but surely not an easy one. Actually, it took a heavy toll on his mental health, as his character commits various horrible acts throughout the series before finally being caught. Heo Sung revealed that the unsettling role caused him to suffer from nightmares every night, and while filming, he was in a constant battle against himself and his twisted character. He shared, "Whenever I felt even the slightest bit of sympathy for the character, I tried to snap out of it." After the end of the series, he needed to take time off in order to recover from the trauma and only returned to acting several months later. Lastly, let's talk about Seo Ye-ji, who played the part of Im Sang-mi in the 2017 series Save Me. In this thriller drama, Ye-ji's character is trapped in a religious cult in which violence and dark secrets are common. The actress took drastic measures to understand her role better, immersing herself completely in the character of Sang-mi. In an interview with Osin after the end of the series, Ye-ji revealed, "I moved out of my house and lived alone 2 weeks prior to filming. I spent most of my time indoors and listened to depressing music. This helped her get into her role, but also severely impacted her mental health, and she began experiencing sleep paralysis. Over the 4 months that I filmed Save Me, I experienced sleep paralysis every night. I had to suffer sleep paralysis while alone, so I became scared. I couldn't move my body, and I would always dream of someone chasing me while banging on my door." Ye-ji also said that she lived every day as her character Sang-mi while filming the series, but she eventually regretted her decision. She ended up almost suffering from depression, and she added, "I started to feel unfortunate for myself. There were a lot of times when I became so angry that I couldn't stop crying." After finishing filming the series, Ye-ji decided to take a long break in order to recover from this unsettling experience. Luckily, she recovered and came back to acting after a few months of rest. And some productions are so extreme that filming them becomes a truly harrowing experience. Here are the Korean dramas that were terribly disturbing to shoot.
Some of these K-dramas were difficult for us to watch, but they were even tougher for the actors to film, whether it was because their role was too demanding or the backstory was just too creepy and disturbing. Strangers from Hell is definitely not for those with a faint heart. Although the drama doesn't include a lot of jump scares, the creepy atmosphere and disturbing characters are enough to send shivers down your spine. It follows Yoo Dong-wook, who moves to a cheap dormitory after moving to Seoul, and things go wrong from the very beginning. Mysterious things that keep on happening cause Jong-wook to start fearing his neighbors, especially the charming yet odd dentist Seo Moon-jo. Moon-jo is played by none other than Lee Dong-wook, who transformed himself into a really dangerous and twisted individual. A dentist by day and a psychopath with a taste for hurting people by night, Dong-wook strayed completely from his usual roles. Since this was Dong-wook's first time playing a villain, not only did he have to practice a lot to portray someone so twisted, but it had affected him more than it should have. Dong-wook shared that even though he kept thinking that his role is just an act while on set, set, his friends noticed that the role started to change him. Dong-wook explained, "My friends told me that my eyes have changed. In fact, one day I looked into the mirror after washing my face and I was unfamiliar with myself, so I thought to pull myself together." As if that wasn't enough, Dong-wook also opened up about the time that he got too much into the role. There's a scene in the show where Dong-wook pulls out someone's teeth, and while the person in pain isn't shown on the screen, Dong-wook found himself thinking about the ways that he could make it even more painful. Dong-wook added, "At that moment I thought, what is this? I thought once again that I have to be more careful when playing roles like this." His role in Strangers from Hell came after Dong-wook admitted to hitting rock bottom after starring in Goblin, so even though the role wasn't anything easy, it helped him become more comfortable in acting again. Save Me follows the story of Im Sang-mi, played by Seo Ye-ji, and her family as they move from Seoul to the suburbs of Muji County after her father's business falls apart. What Sang-mi and her family don't know is that the county is ruled by the religious cult Goseonwan. Although the cult pretends to be a peaceful church and loving community, it hides the darkest and most disturbing secrets. In order to prepare for her role, Ye-ji went to the extremes. The actress shared, "I moved out of my house and lived alone 2 weeks before filming. I spent most of my time indoors and listened to depressing music." Ye-ji added that she felt like she was literally becoming Sang-mi during filming. She added, "Soon, I found myself feeling sorry for myself. I was so angry by the religious cult that I often cried endlessly. The show took a huge toll on Ye-ji, and she suffered from nightmares and sleep paralysis for 4 months during filming." Ye-ji explained, "I was afraid after experiencing sleep paralysis on a daily basis all alone. I couldn't move my body, and it felt like someone or something was chasing me and pounding on the door." Ye-ji also felt herself slipping into depression after she spent so much time as Sang-mi. Another drama that is, in one word, unsettling is The Glory. Some of the scenes are very hard to watch, and compared to the show's heartbreaking backstory, it's a series that is impossible to forget. The writer of the show, Kim Moon-suk, was inspired by a conversation she had with her daughter about the terrible things that happen in schools, as well as her interactions with people who survived very similar things. The Glory is also very reminiscent of an incident that happened in 2006 in Cheongju, where 3 students hit, burned, and scratched their classmate after she couldn't give them money whenever the perpetrators asked. The victim shared that her wounds never healed properly, and the perpetrators reportedly hurt her even more. The victim was hospitalized for 3 weeks and even had a protruded tailbone. In The Glory, Song Hye-kyo plays the victim who suffered almost the same. To carry out her character as best as possible, Hye-kyo put herself through a hard time physically by eating only bananas for 3 days. Kim Moon-suk shared that Hye-kyo asked her for some time so she could diet. The writer said, "She asked me to give her just 2 months. I asked if she was going to exercise and she said, 'No, I have to lose more weight.' She wanted to look bony and small instead of looking pretty. Because Hye-kyo's scars were done through special effects makeup, her skin suffered a lot as well. Through the scene where Hye-kyo reveals her scars, she wanted the viewers to feel sympathy looking at her instead of thinking her as someone pretty." It goes without saying that Hye-kyo did an incredible job with her role in The Glory, and together with the cast, helped shed light on an ongoing issue not only in South Korea, but all around the world. TV shows that focus on the issues within South Korea's society are almost scarier than other horror and thriller series because they are very much real. DP, also known as Deserter Pursued, is a show that focuses on the lives of soldiers and military personnel. It focuses mainly on a team of Korean military police and their mission to catch deserters. Jung Hae-in plays the role of An Jun-ho, who isn't very fazed by the extremely strict discipline or excruciating physical training, but what bothers him the most is how terribly some people in the military are treated by their superiors. Some very upsetting things happen in the show, but sadly, they aren't far away from what truly happens in the Korean military. In 2020 alone, there were 946 reported cases of harassment in the military, and there were countless more cases which have never been reported. Korean men in their 20s and 40s who already completed their military service shared their own experiences with the struggles in the military shortly after the show aired its finale season 1. The show was dubbed to be PTSD triggering, and those who enlisted between the years 2000 and 2020 all agree that nothing has changed over the decades. The South Korean military is still riddled with problems. The show's director, Han Jun-hee, shared in an interview that the never-ending incident reports on the news are proof that what happens in the show isn't at all fictional. Extracurricular is another series that talks about hidden social issues. Kim Dong-hee plays the main role of Jisoo, a straight-A high school student who lives a double life as a criminal mastermind. What no one knows is that Jisoo is secretly protecting and coordinating the activities of a few young people who make money in a not-so-morally right way. Jisoo negotiates problems with clients and occasionally has to step out to rescue someone from an angry client. Jin Han-se, the writer of the show, shared that he felt very burdened when he was is writing the story because of how the protagonists find themselves in situations that are almost too hard to imagine. The writer said, "I felt like I was setting a time bomb, as it might end up looking like glorifying wrong behaviors." The writer wasn't the only one who was concerned about the public's reception of the drama. Dong-hee was also worried about how his role was going to be seen by the public, mainly because the show had a lot of unexpected similarities to the Nth Room case, where women were blackmailed into taking videos that were then shared through Telegram without their consent. Dong-hee shared, "It would be a lie to say I didn't have any hesitation about appearing in this drama. It was the most shocking scenario and script out of all of the ones I've seen so far." Dong-hee added that he felt drawn to the topic because it's been difficult to explore this topic in Korean dramas. Jin Han-se shared in an interview that Extracurricular is a story that digs into society's wounds and touches parts of society that people might find too uncomfortable and painful to face. Although VIP is a movie, it still deserves to be on the list, especially for Lee Jong-suk's portrayal of the main character, Kwang-il. He's the son of a high-ranking North Korean official who is suspected of several crimes committed on women all around the world. He has the whole of South Korea, North Korea, and even Interpol chasing after him. Jong-suk portrayed the role of Kwang-il perfectly because he doesn't look like a typical psychopath, and his innocent smile deceives most people. Jong-suk shared, "I thought that if I have a childlike smile while doing inhuman actions, it would give off an odd feeling to the viewers." It certainly did, because this movie was met with a lot of negative responses from the viewers. Since it was R-rated, people younger than 18 could not see the movie. The movie was also criticized for its depiction of harm against women. Some claimed that the movie had too many cruel and gruesome scenes that were unnecessary, while others criticized the fact that female characters were used to show the cruelty of male characters. One viewer wrote, "The cruel treatment of a woman in order to simply showcase a character's traits only highlights the director's poor imagination and how lightheartedly he takes this matter." It was also revealed that the production team hired 9 rookie actresses just to play the role of deceased females. In the credits of the movie, where each actor is listed next to their role, these rookie actresses only had the deceased female body or Hong Kong victim next to their names. The credits were changed after the controversy, but it didn't change people's opinions.
Disturbing shoots often leave lasting marks. In fact, there are at least 11 instances where Korean actors were completely devastated because of the roles they played.
Oftentimes, actors have to deal with very emotional scenes that tug at their heartstrings. As a result, these actors can't stop their emotions from flowing out, and they ended up crying or being emotional long after the filming is done. Gong-yu experienced his major breakthrough after starring in The Legendary Goblin, and his first project after the 2-year break he had took many by surprise. It even caused him to have some backlash. During the press conference for the movie Kim Jae-wook, born 1982, Gong-yu opened up about the criticism he received for starring in a movie that was based on the feminist novel. "We all know that feminism is still a controversial topic in South Korea, and many of Koreans are completely or heavily against it." Gong-yu shared that while he was reading the script, he thought a lot about his family and was very moved by it. Gong-yu said, "It is very rare for me to cry while reading a script, but I cried while reading this one. My family came to my mind, and I called my mom to thank her. I thanked her for raising me." Gong-yu added that this movie is a great movie to watch for people of all generations and ages. Even though feminism is such a controversial topic, this movie is a great way to break those stereotypes. Kim Jae-wook, 2521 is a K-drama packed with emotions and situations that may or may not break your heart. It's no wonder that Kim Jae-wook, known as Bona, who plays the role of Go Yoo-rim, was pretty shaken up while shooting for the series. In an interview with Ji-yeon, she said, "I don't often cry. However, I kept crying at the filming site, even in the scenes where I was not supposed to cry." The actress added that she didn't expect to be so moved by her role, and that it was interesting to see herself cry. According to her, her emotions kept coming out without realizing it, even if she was acting in different scenes. Ji-yeon continued to say that 2521 caused her to manipulate her memories. The story and the drama took her back to the old days in her childhood, and she was hit with nostalgia, which is probably the reason why she was so emotional. Jung Hae-in and Lee Yoo-mi. We all know that Squid Game was a very intense show to watch, and we can't even imagine how intense and difficult it must have been to film. Not only physically, but mentally as well. Jung Hae-in is still one of the most favorite actresses for people, and fans of the show got especially emotional during a particular scene she filmed with her colleague Lee Yoo-mi. In this scene, Hae-in and Yoo-mi are playing the infamous marble game. It's the scene where Yoo-mi decided to sacrifice herself for Hae-in's well-being. From the short behind-the-scenes video that was released, fans quickly learned that emotions were all over the place that day, and while Hae-in was supposed to cry just for the camera, the actress couldn't help but cry in real life life too. Ho-yeon even tried to hide her face to compose herself and rest her head on Yumi's shoulder. In an interview, Yumi revealed the truth about the emotional scene. Interestingly enough, this scene was the first scene to be filmed way before the characters met on the show. The scene where Ho-yeon invites Yumi to be on her team was the last scene to be filmed, so it was completely backwards. Yumi said, "We were too immersed with the feelings during the scene. We weren't supposed to cry, but our eyes were already teary. We can't blame them though. This scene was too heartbreaking to watch even for us." Eugene. Scenes involving children can be the hardest ones to film. Eugene definitely knows what that feels like when she was filming the show Penthouse. During one episode, Eugene's on-screen daughter unfortunately passed away, and filming that scene left Eugene absolutely heartbroken. During a special episode including the cast being interviewed, Eugene opened up about what it was like to film such a difficult scene. Eugene began by saying that she was worried about the scene where her fictional teenage daughter called Lona passes away ever since she read the script for the first time. Eugene added, "There was this one scene where I held Lona in my arms and said, 'Lona, please wake up, you're scaring me.'" Eugene was so emotional during the scene because she herself has a daughter in real life and she never wanted to act in a scene where her child would pass away even if it wasn't real. Eugene added, "Nobody knew that Lona was actually going to pass away. When I received that script, I sighed and was like, okay, so I guess this is something that I have to do." After that, Eugene burst into tears and cried about how hard it was and how she didn't want to do it. Those who have watched Penthouse know how heartbreaking the scene really was, and it's no surprise Eugene was so affected by it. Song Joong-ki. Song Joong-ki skyrocketed to fame after he starred in the crime and mystery series Vincenzo. Because he started his acting career at an older age, there was a certain pressure he felt whenever he received an opportunity because of his late debut. Although Joong-ki shared that he did enjoy filming Vincenzo without any immense pressure and without having a hard time, there were times when it got a little difficult and Joong-ki couldn't conceal his feelings. Undoubtedly, Vincenzo was his darkest and most successful project so far, so it was a little hard for the actor to say goodbye. The actor shared, "I was the only one caught crying on camera, but all of the actors cried. I didn't want to say goodbye, and I always get emotional when the final shoot ends." Another scene where Joong-ki couldn't control his emotions was when Vincenzo was sending his mother off, adding, "It was the scene where Vincenzo's emotions were the strongest. Jeon Yo-bin was also crying even when she wasn't being filmed. Let's be honest, we all cried during that scene too." Lee Dong-wook. Lee Dong-wook couldn't keep his emotions under control when he was filming a really sad scene in the series Touch Your Heart. During one of the behind-the-scenes videos of the show, Dong-wook and his on-screen girlfriend Yoo-na filmed their breakup scene. However, it really messed with Dong-wook's emotions and he couldn't stop the tears from coming. Dong-wook was saying his line to Yoo-na when he suddenly turned to the camera and suddenly said, "That's so weird, why am I crying? Hold on." To give Dong-wook a minute to calm down, the filming stopped for a moment and Yoo-na tried to lighten the mood by playfully teasing Dong-wook and patting him on the back. Yoo-na joked about the fact that this is the character Kwon Jong-dok's first ever relationship, which is why Dong-wook must be crying. It didn't take long until Dong-wook composed himself and the couple continued with filming, successfully wrapping up one of the saddest scenes of the drama. Kim Go-eun and GOT7's Jin-young. The new behind-the-scenes videos for Yumi Cells 2 reveal the true atmosphere of the set, especially with the two main stars Kim Go-eun and GOT7's Jin-young. Although the vibes at the set were fun and lighthearted at the beginning, it quickly changed when it came to film Go-eun and Jin-young's breakup scene. Both actors got so immersed in their characters that they started to cry real tears. Even after the camera stopped rolling, Jin-young struggled a lot with containing his emotions as he quickly blinked back his tears. Go-eun couldn't stop crying even after she wiped her face and began monitoring their takes. The sad atmosphere didn't last long though because the on-screen couple was laughing together just a moment later. Taekyun seemed to have his emotions all over the place while he was filming the series Secret Royal Inspector and Joy. During one of the behind-the-scenes clips, Taekyun is seen getting a little emotional while filming the kiss scene with his on-screen partner. Even though he was joking around just seconds ago before the director yelled cut, once it was time to get serious, he couldn't stop himself from getting emotional. A few weeks later, after another behind-the-scenes video was released, Taekyun is seen getting emotional again. This time, it was after another kiss scene that Taekyun started to get teary-eyed. After filming the scene, Taekyun suddenly started to apologize, saying, "My nose keeps running into Joy's face. I cry every time we kiss. I can't be like this." The rest of the filming was with fun vibes and without any tears. Seo Hyun-jin. Seo Hyun-jin recently appeared in the movie Cassiopeia, a film centered around dementia in which a daughter loses her memory due to Alzheimer's disease and learns how to live a new life with her father. During a press conference, Hyun-jin shared her thoughts about playing such a difficult role. The actress said, "I first received the script from the director 2 years ago. When I read the script back then, I remember crying crying a lot because of the middle part because it was so good. Even though it might seem difficult for others, Hyunjin approached the script with a lot of courage as she really wanted to do it. Hyunjin also shared that she didn't expect that the filming would be so scary. She kept getting discouraged and then motivated again, and after the script reading, she went back to being afraid again. Hyunjin expressed her wishes on being able to meet real patients with Alzheimer's, but because of social distancing, she had to learn a lot through videos. Despite this, Hyunjin still did an incredible job with her role.
And in some tragic cases, the consequences went even further. Kim Soo-hyun's movie had a devastating impact on Sulli, forever altering her life and career. Kim Soo-hyun's 2017 film Real is stirring up controversy once again, this time after Sulli's brother leveled shocking accusations against the actor and the movie's director, who happens to be his cousin. As more unsettling details emerge about the film's behind-the-scenes drama, questions are growing. How many others beyond Seo-ran might have fallen victim to Soo-hyun's actions? The movie, touted as an action thriller, had Soo-hyun returning to the big screen after Secretly Greatly, and reports quickly highlighted the noir elements of the upcoming movie, casting him as a cold, ambitious character. Initially, there was little about the film, aside from Soo-hyun's role and the fact that he had personally invested millions in the project. The premise of the movie, along with Soo-hyun's involvement in it, generated a lot of excitement among the public, but everything changed when Sulli was reported to have been offered the female lead. Despite the lack of official confirmation, the backlash against her was swift and harsh. Even before the casting was confirmed, online forums were filled with comments accusing her of ruining the film, and netizens were ruthless, questioning why she was being cast in such a prestigious project. Once it was confirmed that Sulli would play Song Yoo-hwa, a rehabilitation specialist, the hate escalated. People criticized her acting without the movie even being out, saying she didn't deserve to share the screen with who they considered to be prestigious actors like Lee Sung-min, Sung Dong-gil, and even Soo-hyun. Things only got worse in 2016, when basically every media outlet reported that Sulli would be filming an explicit scene for the movie. This would mark her first bed scene, and the backlash was immediate and unforgiving. Instead of discussing the film or her performance as an actress, the focus was entirely on her personal life. Critics made vile comments about her relationship with Choiza and called her vile and degrading names. The most disturbing part was that some even treated Soo-hyun like a victim, acting as if he had been forced into the scene. This narrative was absurd, considering Soo-hyun was not only a co-star but also a producer on the film, heavily involved in decisions from casting to the content. Disturbingly, the film's marketing strategy seemed to take things up a notch by focusing heavily on the explicit scenes, which only escalated the backlash Sulli was facing. Rather than shying away from the controversy, the movie leaned into it, using these scenes as a main selling point. Part of this was one insider revealing that Sulli, surprisingly, handled most of the scenes herself, with only a few more revealing moments involving a body double. Despite this, the media couldn't help but turn her involvement into a spectacle, questioning whether her role was just a publicity stunt designed to draw attention through her exposure. This left both fans and critics baffled, wondering why no one seemed willing to stand up for her as she faced relentless criticism. By May 2017, a month before the film's release, the public was already predicting failure for Real, with many blaming Sulli for the movie's potential flop. Online discussions questioned whether her controversial image would harm the movie's prospects, with some even suggesting that Soo-hyun's career would be ruined by association. The attacks on Sulli were so pervasive that even the slightest misstep became fuel for more hate. When she arrived late to the press conference, the media pounced, criticizing her tardiness and her comments about the set. Sulli had tried to connect with the role, going so far as to visit hospitals to observe therapists, but none of these efforts were acknowledged. Instead, the spotlight remained on her perceived flaws, with Soo-hyun contributing to the narrative by scolding her publicly, dismissing her with comments like "speak normally," further isolating her. Despite being a supporting character, Sulli bore the brunt of the attention. When Real finally hit theaters, the reviews were harsh, but the blame remained on her. Critics agreed that the film failed due to poor direction, a confusing script, and a lack of cohesive storytelling. Yet the public continued to scapegoat Sulli, ignoring the film's many flaws. Soo-hyun, despite his role as both a producer and lead actor, remained silent. He distanced himself from the blame and instead focused on his career, leaving Sulli to carry the weight of the criticism. As the movie sank into obscurity, Soo-hyun quietly left for military service, having contributed to the chaos but refusing to take responsibility. Meanwhile, Sulli remained the target of online hate, with no one stepping in to defend her or challenge the narrative being pushed by the media. In the aftermath of the movie's failure, questions surrounding Soo-hyun's involvement started to emerge. Speculation grew that he, along with his cousin, the director, may have intentionally stirred up controversy to grab attention for a film that was already destined to flop. Rumors even suggested that the explicit scenes were leaked on purpose to generate buzz. The media seemed to play a part in this, too, protecting Soo-hyun's image while shifting the blame onto Sulli, casting her as the scapegoat for the movie's shortcomings. As more allegations surface, it's becoming clear that Sulli was unjustly dragged into a mess that she had little control over, and the true story behind Real is far more complex than anyone originally thought. After Soo-hyun's interactions with Saran and how he allegedly treated her came to light, the issue came to light once again. As his name made headlines, Sulli's brother, Choi Min-sik, took to Instagram on March 21st with a cryptic message. He posted a black square with a caption that seemed directed at Soo-hyun, writing, "Kimshi, I have a lot to say, but I can't. You're going to fall from your high position, so you better hold on tight." Gun-hee never mentioned anyone by name, but since his post came just as Soo-hyun was under fire, many assumed it was about him. As speculation grew, he addressed it again later that day with another black square, pointing out how Soo-hyun's fans reacted instantly, even though he never named anyone. He expressed frustration over the lack of clear facts, saying he had lived with that same uncertainty for years. To cope, he had convinced himself there was no other choice. He decided not to say more, believing it wouldn't change anything or help anyone, especially with so many already struggling. He ended the caption with, "Aren't you the ones constantly dragging my sister onto the chopping block over similar issues? The way her name keeps getting brought up all over the place, it's honestly disgusting." He didn't go into details, but it was clear that something had happened during the filming of Real. He made it even more obvious with another post where he captioned it, "My life, your life, all of our lives are real," with the word real being in quotation marks. On March 27th, Gun-hee made another post, and this time, his words carried even more weight. He spoke about the 6 years that had passed since Sulli's passing, accusing someone of having played around with her during that time, and warning that they too would now have to endure 6 years of suffering. His message was sharp and direct, making it clear that he believed consequences were inevitable, while also urging them not to collapse too soon under the weight of their own actions. The situation escalated even further the next day when Gun-hee took things a step further by publicly demanding a statement from both Soo-hyun and his cousin, Lee Robe, who had directed Real. In an exclusive interview with Sports Kyung-yang, he opened up about the immense sorrow his family had been forced to live with for the past 6 years, emphasizing that the pain they carried had never faded. He also addressed Saran's passing, stating that it wasn't something they could simply overlook or pretend had no connection to their own circumstances, while also offering his condolences to her family in light of what had happened. Along with his statement, Gun-hee raised 3 specific issues that he wanted Soo-hyun and Lee Robe to address. The first revolved around disturbing testimonies shared by staff and actors at Sulli's funeral, where it was revealed that her explicit scenes with Soo-hyun in Real had not been as detailed in the original script, leading him to demand Soo-hyun's stance on the matter. The second issue focused on that very scene, as Gun-hee claimed that although a body double had been present on set during filming, Sulli had ultimately been persuaded and even forced into doing the scene herself, leaving him questioning why the double had not been used instead. Lastly, he pointed out the conflicting statements that had been made about the body double's presence, as it had previously been stated that no double was available that day due to an illness, yet testimonies at the funeral contradicted this claim. With these inconsistencies coming to light, Gun-hee insisted that both Soo-hyun and Lee Robe come forward with a clear explanation. He added, "There were many other things we heard at Sulli's funeral, but we are only asking for answers for these 3 fact-based instances. Please respond." Gun-hee ended by saying that he hoped the truth about Saran would come to light, and that if her family ever wanted to meet, he would be willing to offer his condolences and support. His words sent shockwaves through the industry once again, reigniting discussions about the movie. Sulli's fans, along with netizens who were now scrutinizing Soo-hyun's past, had always suspected that something was off about Real, from the way Sulli was treated during filming to how the movie was promoted. However, they were only now beginning to grasp just how deep the issue ran. In response to the growing controversy, Gold Medalist, the agency founded by Soo-hyun's cousin, who also directed Real, released a brief statement saying they were in the process of verifying the claims made by Sulli's brother. This vague response did little to calm the public, with netizens expressing their frustration frustration over the company's predictable attempt to deflect responsibility. They wrote comments like, "They are checking things every day, and why does checking sound like bribing a witness?" Fans quickly pointed out how strange the entire situation was. Sulli suddenly stopped participating in group activities to focus on acting, even though she had only been in a couple of dramas before. Then, out of nowhere, she landed a role in Real, starring alongside one of the most popular actors in the industry, Soo-hyun. Speculation spread that Sulli might have been looking to break free from her innocent idol image, which could have made her more susceptible to agreeing to the explicit scenes, which could have been easily done with a body double. Many felt that Soo-hyun exploited Sulli's struggles, both personal and professional, knowing she was vulnerable. For Sulli, working with someone as famous as Soo-hyun might have seemed like a golden opportunity, a chance to prove herself in the industry, but instead it appeared to be another instance of manipulation, with Soo-hyun using his position to take advantage of a younger, more vulnerable actress. Some even speculated that both Soo-hyun and the director, his cousin, pressured Sulli into uncomfortable situations, taking advantage of her challenges. The fact that she had no real support on set, with two powerful men, one the lead actor, the other the director, made the whole situation even more troubling. To many, the movie felt like a trap, drawing Sulli in and keeping her there, with no one watching out for her well-being. While the full extent of what went on behind the scenes remains unclear, the impact this movie had on Sulli is undeniable. Her family shared that after filming Real, Sulli vowed never to act in films again because of the mental strain it caused her. Sulli's struggles became even more evident when she eventually sought psychiatric help and even self-harmed because of it. While Real wasn't the sole reason behind her heartbreaking fate, it certainly played a role in worsening her mental health, adding to the relentless hate she was already facing and making it even more unbearable for her to deal with. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. We hope to see you next time. Stay tuned for more exciting news and stories about your favorite movies, series, and actors.